Hey, good morning everyone. I'm Kaye here in Tennessee on my homestead, and today we're going to talk about the structure of plants, and we're going to harvest blueberries. Stay with me. You know, I was sitting right up there where I do my morning meditation now. This is a whole new thing, and I'm getting a lot out of it. I'm also sharing pictures that I take on my posts page, which used to be called the community page, which you can access from the homepage of any channel. I was sitting there and I was just, it was quiet, and I'm just amazed, you know, after living in the city for 40 plus years and 25 of them in Pacific Palisades, and there was no view whatsoever. And just being able to look out and see the back of my camellia bushes, which were about 15 feet tall, a row of those in the back, that was my view. That was my farthest view. It was a small street, and the house right across the street. I loved him dearly, but he was a hoarder, and so he had all of this unsightly stuff in the yard. So I could, looking that way was not a pleasant view. And in fact, when I shot my videos, because I've been on for 13 years now, I had to be careful to shoot at an angle and not right across the street. And my garden was in the front yard, so that was very challenging. And he had one of the first generation Suburbans, and it was beige or cream color. So, and it was parked in the front yard right across the street. So it was like, okay, that's going to be in every shot, in every video that I make, unless I'm careful. So to have this now is, I can't even grasp the beauty that I'm surrounded by now. And I'm so blessed. I feel so blessed. Just seeing the structure of all of these trees. I mean, this morning I was struck by the structure of a weed. It's a weed that popped up a couple of years ago. I noticed it on my plant app. It said it was a great for pollinators, and I thought, well, let's hang on to that, you know. And it came up in the new driveway garden, and I thought, okay, we'll keep that. Well, this particular plant has the most amazing structure. It has the perfect sort of Christmas tree structure that you would think, you know, with the perfect single stem and all of the branches, and it comes to a conical point, and then it has these the smallest flowers I've ever seen on all of these little branches that come out. Now, it is a weed, and it's going to drop seed, and there are going to be a lot more, and I don't have room for a lot more because this plant is 2 feet wide and 3 feet tall right now. So, and I do have 2 more over there, but right now they're just this tall. And then I looked around, and the next big structural thing that I observed was, I don't know why, but I have 2 peach trees, and they're right beside the pole, the tower, the electric pole. I've heard that plants grow better near an electric pole, although it has a negative effect on humans, I think. Anyway, I have 2 peach trees. One's a little farther down, one's right in front of that pole, and they both were pruned last year, and this one, the front one, just exploded. It must have put on 6 feet this year. I can't reach it or anything, and it was loaded with peaches, and it's still got quite a few on there. There was a huge fruit drop, and I'm not sure why, but in the past I've had a lot of the fruit looks diseased when it drops. This time it just dropped early, and so I noticed that the tree was just half I was over here, and there was a big split, so I could see 6 feet more of the electric pole in between. It was like that now instead of like that. And so I thought, you know, you start thinking about structure and the weight and what pulls it down and what makes a tree fall. You know, all of these things have been on my mind because my new wonderful tree trimmer has had this near fatal injury with a tree falling on his legs. I don't know the details of why it fell. I know he was volunteering his services and the family needs support, so I'll be sure and put the link for his fundraiser in the first pinned comment under this video. If you have a few, $5, $10, if you have a little something to spare, that would be awesome. At any rate, you hear trees go down all the time from weight and of course disease and age. All these are factors. But then when you think about the structure of planning your garden, you go, okay, well, what is going to need support? I want this in my garden, but is it going to need support? This is for your pretty garden. Obviously for your crop garden, you've got to grow your tomatoes, you got to grow all of your stuff, all of your annuals, and you have to account for their structure. If you don't give tomatoes support, they are a sprawling vine unless you grow determinate tomatoes. And if you don't know the difference, determinate tomatoes are tomatoes that just come up, they're a hybrid, and they just come up to a certain height, put out one set of fruit, and they're done. My card was full, and I had to delete a bunch of stuff, and I lost my train of thought. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and harvest blueberries. Now, this is the first time in 3 years, I think, that I covered the blueberries. I had this structure with the open netting, you know, but birds sometimes get stuck in that. People have complained about that. That has happened to me also. And so I used insect netting, and I thought this was just genius. I already had 10-foot lengths of PVC pipe, and I used those rebar with the blade. I think they're 4-foot rebar, shoved it into the end, and then you bend the PVC into a hoop, and then you just stretch your insect netting all the way down. And you've got to make sure you get it all the way around secured because birds can get in there. They did that with the mulberry tree the other day into the bag. But even if you look at the structure of my blueberry bushes, this person I follow, he's great. I'll have to put his name on the screen because I can't remember everything, but he was saying about blueberries is, you know, and I knew this, obviously, if you plant your blueberries need full sun. That's where they're happiest, with 6 hours at least of full sun a day. Well, I have this enormous maple tree, which has gotten more enormous since I've lived here for 5 years. And it shadows the first 3 or 4 blueberry bushes, which are smaller and produce smaller fruit. Now, there are different varieties. You've got to have more than one variety of blueberry for pollination. And so, to fruit, you know. And so I covered these smaller, gnarly bushes in a net bag, which is what I had available. And I'm thinking, oh, now I've got to reach in there into the net bag and try to get those berries out. And the structure that I had before with the open netting, I could walk down the middle and harvest and walk out the door. But that one winter that we had like 8 inches of snow overnight collapsed the wire structure of it. So that all got pulled out, and I didn't have anything the last couple of years. Now, did I lose a lot of fruit because of birds? Maybe. I don't know. How do you know? So I just can see through, you can see this picture. I came out and took a couple of pictures this morning, and I thought, I have got to get in there. I'm going to lose all those blueberries. So we're going to go harvest blueberries. We're going to think about the structure of plants and how important it is when you're planning your garden. You know, what structure does your plant need? Is it a perennial or an annual? That makes a huge difference. And are you going to allow your weeds to grow? Because some are great pollinators. That's another thing. If you have a weed like Oriental lady's thumb, which I did a video on this, I'll put the link right up there. It is a medicinal plant like many weeds. But oh my gosh, if that gets out, that's everywhere. And it's just a creepy crawly vine, and it just shows up everywhere. And once it's out, it's out. I mean, and it's out here now. I let it go and it's out. So there's no getting it back. But something like white vervain, which is a one structure, beautiful tree, conical shaped bush, that's different. You might have space for that. Also late boneset, which I did the video on late boneset and giant ironweed. Giant ironweed gets to be this tall, at least it was this tall, I think, and has a beautiful strong stem, which is why it's called ironweed. And so, you just have to plan for these things if you're going to let your weeds grow. And of course, you have to plan your structures. If your perennial's creepy and crawly, you've got to, it's a lot to plan. So I just wanted to give you some things to think about. And let's go harvest blueberries. We're going to have to go in there. Oh, there's a lot on the ground. Should have been out here 2 days ago. This netting is dripping wet. We've had so much rain, these are very plump. Are you guarding? Keeping the birds out? Good girl. I decided I'm much better off in here. The mosquitoes can't get me, right? So both of the cats are in here now. Look at this one. This one got so huge it exploded. If I had waited another day, I would have lost a lot. Because with all this rain, and I'm just hoping the blueberries have flavor because, well, let's try one. We can find out pretty quickly, right? Let me sit down on these wet wood chips. I don't have a problem with that at all. Oh, my goodness. I love breakfast in the garden. Blueberries are ripe when they're blue-purple. When they're pinky rose color, they're not ripe. They have to be blue. And they'll lose all that blush once they go into the refrigerator. This is just part of 2 bushes. I got a long way to go. definitely want to get this done before the sun comes out, because you're gonna get hot. Speaking of structure, this fig bush, I wonder if I should just cut all those branches and just keep that one that's coming up, you know, because it puts all the energy into all these branches and all these leaves and never gets around to making figs. What do you think? Let me know in a comment below. Look what all is left to ripen. Oh, there's one. Look at that. Wow. Oh, that was sweet. Oh, I'm getting wet. Woo, this is fun. They love to hide. You got to get and look from all directions. Okay, it stopped and the sun peeked out for a second. I just wanted to point out that I'm almost at the end of one row. And my back is killing me. And I'm going to have to save the second row for tomorrow. But I wanted to mention, if you've never looked at Old Alabama Gardener channel, a lot of people know Charles from his channel. He passed away some years ago, but the channel is still on YouTube, and it is so informative, especially if you're a beginner gardener and food preservationist. If you're preserving food, you know, he has so many. They're just real simple but informative videos, and he's just so honest. And he used to say, I answer every comment. Well, not anymore, but maybe his daughter is answering comments, I don't know. But I visited him twice in Alabama during I used to do a lot of tours because I had such a small garden. I thought, well, I've run out of ideas. Let me show my viewers other people's gardens and see what they're doing. Like one time I drove down to it was close to San Diego, and a woman had 400 tomato plants growing on her hillside backyard. I mean, it was just so amazing. It was worth going to see that, you know, and showing it to people who can't see it except through my videos. So I do that with Charles, and I have an Old Alabama Gardener playlist, and I'll put the link right up to the left up there. And I think there are a total of 4 videos, but I was impressed with his blueberry enclosure. And he had taken the time to build a cage that was at least 6 feet tall, so that he could walk in comfortably through the door on flat grounds. That's another problem I have with doing that here. No flat ground, but he had 2 rows on either side, and these blueberry bushes were 6 feet tall, you know, over his head. these hoops pull the bushes down, so they're only here, you know, while the blueberries are ripening, and then they're gone. But I'm already thinking about how I'm going to get this thing taller for next year, because if I keep having success like this, I have never had success like this, and so I want to be able to make this easier on myself. Hey, if you have not subscribed to my channel, I hope you will. Click that bell for notifications. Scroll down and click all so you won't miss an episode. And let me finish up here, and then I'll see you outside. Oops. I was really on the home stretch, and it came a shower. So I grabbed the camera so we're both underneath a little bit of protection. And look how many more. This is the most abundant crop ever, and I did fertilize, and boy does that make a difference. Boy does that make a difference. Wow. Okay, thanks so much for being with me. Here's Spot. Here's Spot. Say hi. Say hi. I brushed him yesterday, and I believe you could make a coat out of what he sheds. He is like so much fur. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I am guessing this is about 7 pounds? I don't know. Thank you so much for being here. You know, there's a reason I wanted to mention, please listen. There's a reason that OAG channel is still on YouTube, and that is to bring some income into his beloved wife and daughter. And so if you have a gardening question, you'll find the answer on his channel. Charles was not an organic gardener, but he knew a lot of tricks. And I just watched a video yesterday, and it was about how he prevented squash bugs, the squash borer, from destroying his squash plants. And he distinguished for you with pictures the difference between the squash bug and the squash borer. And they look very different. So if you don't know, check out that and show the channel some love. Thank you so much for being a part of the late bloomer community. Look forward to my morning posts, my morning inspiration, sunrise inspiration, meditations on my posts page, my videos, my weekly update garden videos at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Those premiere with a live chat every Saturday morning. So, and then there's extra stuff like this one. So thank you so much for watching. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video. There's one thing about blueberries. They're loaded with antioxidants. No need to preserve these. I'll just eat them. What's your favorite way to preserve blueberries? I have a blueberry compote video that you really should watch. It's wonderful, especially if you don't have that many. You don't have enough to preserve. You can make a pint or a couple of pints, a couple of half pints, and put them in the refrigerator, and they last for 2 or 3 months. And you can use it like syrup on pancakes, biscuits, whatever. Crepes. Perfect for crepes.